Hello and welcome to another episode of Two Guys and a Chainsaw. I'm Todd.
And I'm Craig.
This week we're doing a film that came out in 2019. 2019 doesn't seem like that long ago to me, but actually it's been a while. It's been like 7 years, so I guess it's an older movie whose standards you're going by. But, you know, we've always been apologists for Nicolas Cage. Both Craig and I think that he is an unfairly maligned actor. Did you see that interview that I posted to our patrons recently?
I don't think so.
So I found an interview with him that the New York Times just did just last month or two. And it was very extensive. And, you know, they just talked to him. I mean, Nicolas Cage, I like the guy. I love his work. I think he's an actor who does a lot of different interesting things, and he's not afraid to be crazy, and I think people love to make fun of him, but there comes this tipping point where it's just the thing you do, right? Oh, Nicolas Cage, like he's this crazy guy, and we make fun of him, and he's not serious and all that. But don't get me wrong, he's eccentric. As an individual, he's clearly eccentric. He seems to know that. He's very self-aware, and he takes all these different projects, and he's just interested in doing different stuff. He wants to stretch himself as an actor and do different things. And he also has his own little shtick, but I have no problem with the guy. In fact, I really enjoy almost everything I see him in. And so anyway, I like Nicolas Cage, and I think you were inspired to pick this movie because of a movie we did recently, right?
Just a couple weeks ago, I think, yeah.
Yeah, what was the connection? I can't remember.
We watched The Curse. I don't remember, the 80s, Will Wheaton,
right? The
Family on the Farm. And I think both of us were aware that it was based on a Lovecraft story, but in looking into that movie, we, found specifically that it was based on the Lovecraft story, The Color Out of Space. And we knew that this was another adaptation of the same story. And both of us were left underwhelmed by The Curse. So I thought, while it's still fresh in mind, why not do 2019's Color Out of Space and see, we'll, of course, talk about it on its own merits, but I figured we could draw comparisons to the other one, too.
There you go. Yeah, and I think that's apropos. Like there's a lot to talk about as far as comparing these two films. Have you read the original story?
Yesterday I did. After I watched this. Yeah, after I watched this, I was curious and I had time. So I listened to it and read along at the same time. Have you? You said you might, but I know you've been really busy.
God, I wanted to, but I'm traveling through Thailand with my family right now. I've been in Japan, I've been in Thailand, and it's me and my parents and Kenji, and we've just been so busy that it was enough for me to just watch this movie. Actually, I woke up at 5 a.m. to watch this movie just to make sure that I could see it before he woke up and before we got busy with our day. And now it's evening time and we're recording this, so yeah, because I knew if I waited till evening, I might not give myself the time. We might be stuck in a taxi in Bangkok traffic somewhere, and I'd be freaking out. So I managed to watch this, and I didn't do any research or anything on it, but I really enjoyed it a lot.
Good.
I was really glad you picked it. I'm going to just show all my cards at once. I thought it was a little long.
Yeah.
But aside from that, like, what a well-made movie. And I felt like, not having read the short story, just being familiar, I've read a few Lovecraft short stories. I was like, this has to be a far better adaptation of the short story than The Curse ended up being. Am I right or wrong about that?
No, it is. It's better. Honestly, in, having seen them both now and then reading the story afterwards, they both kind of draw from the same elements of the story, kind of in different ways. Like, there are certainly things that happen, like specific details of the narrative that happen in both movies. And in terms of that, neither of them really deviates a ton from the overall story, but that's kind of the thing with Lovecraft stories. I've said, God, it's probably been years ago we talked about Lovecraft, and I said that I'm a huge fan of his intellectual property. Reading him is a challenge for me. Not because the text is challenging, it's relatively common language, but he writes in a really vague manner. Like all of his, not all, but most of the stories that I've read are told from a first narrator's perspective. And it sounds very much like folklore. And it kind of sounds like if an old, gosh, I don't know, some old bearded man telling you some story that his grandpappy told him. And so
it's very narrated, right? It's not like
it's very narrated, and there's not a whole lot of detail. Like,
yeah.
you really have to fill in the blanks with your imagination, which is good. I mean, I think that that's, an appropriate technique for storytelling.
It's part of his appeal, I think, honestly.
Right. But when I say, like, I'm a fan of his intellectual property, like the whole Cthulhu mythos and that whole universe that he built, a whole, communities and different cities and towns and universities and all of these ancient gods and all of these stories interconnected, like all of that is great. I'm super on board with it. And I really like all of the things that have been influenced by, like, I love Lovecraftian stuff. Like, I love The Thing and any, big kaiju type thing. But all of that is so visual and so fantastic. And when you read it in his stories, it's suggested.
Yeah, it's basic. Well,
it's very, very vague.
It's definitely worth talking about. It's a little stodgy too, right? It's a very old school way of writing, I think. But what you say, it's like a guy imparting a story without giving a lot of detail. Like Stephen King, he is not.
Right.
He's like the opposite. He's going to tell you the general gist of what happened, but your brain is going to have to fill in the details. And I think that's why he's mined so much for material.
Well, and that makes sense.
Number one is public domain, so it's free to mine. But yeah, you're right. Number two, you can then take this one story and you can really fill in the detail yourself however you want. And what I really enjoy about him is he's quite bleak, almost like Poe in a way, where most of the stories, they don't end well because the whole notion is that we are but insignificant nothings in the scope of the universe. And there are entities and beings and gods that are far greater to us that we're just like ants to them under their feet. Like we're nothing. Like we're just nothing. That's a horrifying thing to come face to face with. And there's nothing you can do about it. Like if you do come face to face with it, like some of this with Lovecraft is that just coming face to face with it, you'll go insane.
Yes.
Conceptually, these beings and these gods and everything are just so far removed from how we are in our world and our lives, and they're so far bigger than us that when we are faced with them, our minds can't comprehend them, our minds break.
Right, and they are unfathomable.
Yeah.
And therefore also indescribable. So,
exactly. So he doesn't bother, right? He can't describe it. Yeah, exactly.
You can't describe it. It's unfathomable. And like that relates to this story too. Like this color out of space is unfathomable. Like you can't describe it. I mean, we can kind of compare it to something, but it's nothing like that.
Yeah. And I think that's what this movie did really well is it didn't bother to try to describe everything. It was very visual and it relied a lot on the color. And there were lots of little symptoms of what was happening, but we never really know.
No.
Where did this come from? Why is it there? What are the implications? How does it work? Anything like that. We just know it's horrible to us, but also in a way it's beautiful. And that's, I think, the thing that I kind of came away from this movie with was this sense that, what's the word I'm looking for? Just an awe. This is bleak. This is sad. This is horror. What happens to this family? What happens to people? But ultimately, this was nothing against them.
No, no.
This was nothing against them or anybody else. This wasn't a masked murderer with an agenda going through and killing people. This wasn't some entity that came down that wants to take over or whatever. This is just a thing that happened to these people that is far beyond their understanding and who they are and whatever. And for them, it's horrifying because it destroys them. But ultimately, it's just the universe at work. Right. And that's terrifying.
True, right. And yes, I don't think that there's any malice. I think that the movie, more so than the story, tries to give it some explanation. I mean, we'll get into what it's about. It's about a meteor that falls on a farm and then weird stuff starts happening.
Right.
In the movie, at one point, and I'm getting way ahead of myself, but there's something about they wanted to come here and recreate their own world or something. I don't know.
Right.
I wrote it down in my notes. So I think that it's very much suggested in the movie that it's some sort of sentient alien presence of some kind. But again, still vague, like nebulous. We don't really know for sure. In the story, it's even they just don't know. Like it
Yeah.
came. I mean, that's one of the last lines, and I think they even use it in the movie. Like at the end, somebody says it was just a color out of space, and that's the only way that they can describe it. The other thing that I like about Lovecraft's stories, and again, it's been a long time since I've read any others, but I feel like they are self-contained. Like this is something that happened. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
there's a beginning and an end, and we're actually looking at it from like a historical perspective. We're looking at something that happened in the past. That's why it feels like folklore, and that's cool. And the movie, I think, is good in the storytelling in that way too. But I think the thing that I was most impressed with in the movie was just how pretty it was to look at. Like
Mm.
I thought the cinematography was so great. Like it opens just with these shots from seemingly the floor of this very tall forest. I have no idea what type of trees these are, but a
Yeah.
really super, super high canopy.
It's almost otherworldly, honestly. It's
Yeah,
beautiful.
yeah. And it's all in gray and there's mist and stuff, and there's an opening passage that comes from the opening paragraph of the story that just describes the land and the history and suggests that there's lore about it or whatever. And then I thought that it was, I don't know, this is one of the only, I guess, issues that I had with the movie is that they then cut to what could look potentially like a period scene where it's a girl like in a cape in a circle of stones and maybe candles, I don't remember, but she's like chanting and she has a pentagram tattoo on her foot and she does this whole witchcraft thing. She eventually says as she's praying or chanting or whatever that she's trying to burn the cancer out of her mom.
Yeah.
But it turns out it's not a period thing because this good-looking guy from the EPA.
I guess, right? He's down to do water surveys.
And I know, and that was so weird to me because there was a similar thing in The Curse, and this doesn't come directly from the story.
Really?
Yeah,
Oh, interesting.
yeah. There are a couple of things like that. Another one is that the dad's name is Nathan, and his name is not Nathan in the story, but I wonder if his name in the story is like an older version of the name Nathan. I do think it starts with an N. I don't remember. But yeah, that was a weird parallel. But anyway, this guy shows up and again, just like in The Curse, basically for no reason says that he's there to survey the water table for the hydroelectric company or something. And I guess he takes like I said, the story is told from the perspective of a first person narrator, an outside narrator.
So he's like the narrator in a sense?
This guy
Oh,
ends
in
up
the story.
basically being, yeah,
Even though
right.
in the movie, we don't really need a narrator. So
Not really.
he's not a central figure. He's sort of an outsider to everything that's happening. He's sort of a glue that he kind of holds it together. He comes in at the beginning to kind of help us introduce, and then he goes away, and then all this stuff happens to his family, and then he comes in at the end.
Yeah, and there are other little parts where there's him and there's also, well, we'll get to them in just a second. So we get introduced to the whole family. It's a mom and dad. The mom's name is Teresa. I'll probably just call her mom. The dad's name is Nathan. That's Nicolas Cage, who I really like too. I really do think that he's a very, very talented guy. And I think he knows exactly what he's doing.
Yeah.
And to make those bold choices that he makes, the things that people imitate and make fun of him for, bold choices aren't easy.
Yeah.
He's not just goofing around. Like he's working. He's making bold choices, and I think that that's the sign of a good actor. Maybe a little bit more theatrical in style than some other film actors, but
He gets a little weird. He makes some weird choices, but so does Johnny Depp. Like, I fucking hated him in the Willy Wonka movie.
yeah, I'm not a big fan of
You
his.
could say he made a bold choice there, but I thought it was stupid, and it degraded that movie for me.
Well, that's fine. I mean, that's a fair criticism. I think you could say that of some of Nick Cage's movies too. I mean, if
Yeah, we were not fans of Wicker Man, the remake.
yeah,
Well, we thought it was hilarious, but
it was fun. And you already said this, but I agree with you. You know, he likes to try new things, and he's done some stuff recently that he's almost unrecognizable in, and I'm a big fan too. I like him.
what was that one that was big?
I can't think of it.
God, what's the name? What's the name? Long Legs.
Long Legs.
Yeah, God. That
And he
an
was really
interesting movie.
creepy.
Yeah, and you wouldn't have known it was him. So he's a good actor. So lay
He is
off
good.
this guy. Come on.
I don't know. I think he certainly has his fans, and I think that he that has a fairly good reputation. I mean,
I hope
he's
so.
an Academy. I think he's an Oscar-nominated actor. I mean,
Yeah.
he's also been recognized for the more serious things that he's done. So he's doing okay. So there's mom and dad, and then they have Lavinia as their daughter. I think she's the oldest. Then they have another teenage son, Benny, who smokes weed. Like, that's his character trait.
That's his thing. Yeah.
Yeah, and then they've got a younger son. I would say he's like 7, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
And his name is Jack, and he wears big, cute glasses, and he's super cute, and that's his character thing. And the things we learn about them is that they get all their water from a well. They're raising alpacas for meat.
Okay. Strange.
All right. And then at night, when everybody's doing their own thing, the dog senses something weird and starts like acting agitated, and like there's kind of a weird pink light every once in a while, and the farm animals are getting agitated, and the electricity flickers, and mom and dad are like making out, and then all of a sudden this bright like pink violet light floods the house, and there's a loud noise and a big blast of light, and the little boy Jack screams. And when they go outside to investigate, they find a pink glowing stinky meteor.
Now, am I wrong that he was the only one who actually thought it was stinky?
No.
Like, he's really going on and on about how much it smells and how bad it is, and even when later on the mayor and the cops come over, they seem completely unplussed, and one of them even says, "Yeah, I don't really smell anything."
Oh, I don't know. I thought everybody smelled it. I think that he continues to. When I say he, the dad continues to smell it longer than other people. But I could be wrong. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't remember. But again, up to this point, aside from specific location, pretty much the same as the curse.
It is.
Including the fact that they swapped the genders of one of the kids. In the story, the family has 3 boys. It's a mom and a dad and 3 boys. But anyway, so they find it, right? And Jack is acting weird, like he's kind of in shock, but then he comes around and he says his head hurts. And then the sheriff and the mayor and that guy that I said before, Ward, come to check it out. Just like with Ward, this sheriff and this mayor kind of have little side stories that don't matter at all.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I mean, I guess the movie is still kind of using the narrator framework. Like, Ward is telling us this story, but they didn't necessarily need that. Like, this all
No.
could have just happened to this family on their farm, and we could have just been objective observers.
Yeah, I feel like, in a sense, a lot of films feel the need to bring in, like, Ward comes in at moments to help explain things to us, because he's the water guy. There's a sense that the water is contaminated at some point by this meteor, especially this well that's there. But even Ward and, what's her name again? Lavinia, don't they go out into the woods, and there's some rando guy in the woods who also I feel like could have been excised from this and it would have been fine, played by
Tommy Chong.
Yeah, from Cheech and Chong. And he was fine. He's the typical kind of hippie dude living out in the woods.
Off the grid, right?
Off the grid, right, whatever, who's already a little strange, so, whatever. But like, he makes tea for them as they come in, and they're like, oh, this is a little weird, this is a little strange. It could be because this guy's weird, so he just makes weird tea, but also this Ward happens to be a water expert. So he's the one, I feel like his sole purpose in this whole story is just to tell us that the water, with completely definitively that the water is bad. We have a water expert telling us that the water is contaminated, and he just pops in every now and then to remind us of that.
Yeah.
And he's got a thing with Lavinia.
Kinda,
but I mean, it doesn't have time to go anywhere. Like, they just met, and she's occupied with being messed with. So, like,
right. Because as soon as the meteor lands, and again, just like in The Curse, they're kind of like, well, that's weird. Like,
our business.
I know, right? I did appreciate that Benny at least said something like, he's like, should we worry about radiation or like an alien virus or anything? And they're like, no, I probably not. Things start getting weird right away. Jack, the kid, is kind of acting off. The mom is acting a little off, like she says something to Lavinia that's kind of out of character, like she accuses her of dressing too provocatively or something that's really out of character, and it really bothers Lavinia, and everybody just kind of seems on edge. And yeah, then when they visit Ezra, the hippie guy, who's there to give us exposition later about history of this place and aliens and I don't know, weird stuff.
Yeah.
But what's his name? Ward tells us there's something. He says there's something off with the water. He looks at it. It's like dark red, like
clearly off. You don't need to be a water expert to know that there's something off.
Yeah, it's like filthy dirty, and he smells it, and he says it doesn't smell weird, so it must just be like rust from the pipes or whatever. So it's probably okay. Now, I was thinking, if it looks like that from rust, surely that can't be safe.
I wouldn't want to drink that. No. You should be filtering that. You should get a Brita on that right away.
But then he's like, but I mean, if you want, I guess I could take a sample and test it if you want. And Ezra's like, well, I guess if you feel like it. So he takes it. And then weird stuff starts happening. There's a lightning storm. All of the visual effects are beautiful to look at. The lightning it looks like lightning, but it also kind of involves these other kind of weird glowy fluorescent colors that came with the comet. But all of the lightning is striking the place where the comet hit, and somebody says it's drawing the lightning.
Yeah.
That comes directly from the story and was not in The Curse. It's funny, I had kind of always wondered why if it was an adaptation of the story, why The Curse didn't use the original title. Well, it's because they totally took that part out of the story. Like, aside from the glowing orb that lands, there's nothing else about lights or colors in that movie. It's all about the water.
Yeah.
So color out of space wouldn't have made any sense. And obviously the water is a thing here too, but there's a lot more emphasis on, not more emphasis, but more than the other movie on these weird colors. And it ultimately, again, it's difficult to describe because it's supposed to be, but it's almost like an aura or a sheen, like the sheen of oil on water or that they see sometimes in the trees at night, and it progresses throughout the movie and gets easier to see. I watched this on a small screen in a bright room, which I do not recommend. Turn the lights off for this one because the colors are beautiful, and there's subtlety in the beginning, and then it gets more impressive the further on it goes.
I think it's a big screen movie, honestly, and also I like the whole concept. I suppose this, and correct me if I'm wrong, I don't know how strongly emphasized it was. I mean, it is the title of the story, but this whole idea that this color is there, it reminded me of the fact that we can't see everything, right? We know there's ultraviolet light around us. there's essentially a whole world of visuals around us that we don't see, that we're walking through every day, that, for example, animals can see. I think there's certain animals that can see ultraviolet light, certainly insects.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're unaware. We walk around completely unaware of everything that's around us because our senses are limited. And I feel like in a way that thematically this movie alludes to that. Maybe the choice of the purple. This color out of space could have been anything, I suppose. I don't know what it's described as in the book, in the story, but in the movie they choose to use purple, and I can't think that's a coincidence because it's kind of ultraviolet in a way, and that's the spectrum we can't see. And so what I'm saying is I like this concept that there's this thing that came out of space. It exists in this color that they see that's unnatural. It's not a color that they would normally be seeing out in the woods and out and around, and it ties in with what this is all about, this alien presence that's a part of our galaxy and a part of our world, but is really beyond our understanding, but has always been there and is there and is affecting us in ways that are unfathomable.
Right, unfathomable. I just think that that's so creative on Lovecraft's part. I mean, almost every single time that we try to discuss or represent alien life, we try to contextualize it in something that's familiar to us.
It's like a humanoid thing, yeah.
A humanoid thing or something, giant space robots or whatever, but something that we can fathom. Whereas it really almost seems as likely, if not more likely, that it might be something. I mean, by the very nature of the word alien, it might be something that is so completely foreign to us that we just couldn't understand it at all. It might be like something that we've never encountered before. And I think that that's what he's presenting here. We don't really know what this thing is, and there's no way to contextualize it in a way that we can explain. But like you said, it's not animal, vegetable, or mineral, seemingly. And yet it affects everything. It seems to affect biology because all of a sudden, like, strange plants start coming up. Just like these, in this movie, there's these red flowers that paint a very beautiful picture. But these red flowers that pop up everywhere, fuchsia flowers. I don't know if it's like creating new creatures or just modifying. It seems like it's modifying.
Maybe modifying. It's hard to know.
Creatures in nature.
There's like an insect that crawls out of there looks
out of
kind
the
of like
well.
A praying mantis.
It
right?
seems to be centralized in the well at this point also.
Yeah. And it's kind of like a praying mantis, but it gives us close-ups on it, and you can tell it's off, like it's got more eyes than it should have.
Well, and we also seemingly see from that insect. It seems like it's from the insect's POV, or maybe it's from the light's POV. I do think that we do see from the light's POV in other places because, like I said, it's kind of the light is kind of centralized at the bottom of the well now, and that's mesmerizing Jack. Jack just sits and stares at the well all day and like whistles to it and shit.
Right.
But at some point, somebody walks over there and looks down, and we get a POV looking up. But anytime it's like from the light's POV, it's like negative exposure.
It's kind of inverse colors, yes.
Yeah, inverse colors, and seeing it from the bug's perspective in those reverse colors. It's weird, but it's affecting nature also. But it also seems to affect like electricity, and it can turn cars off and on, and it can make the lights flicker, and it can make the internet go down, and it can project beautiful cosmic colors and patterns on computer screens and TV screens. It's messing with their phones.
Yeah.
I don't know if it ever suggests that it like maybe messes with time too. I think that the Lavinia and the brother, I think he says it messes with time too. Like, how long has it been since Dad went out there? How long have we been in here? So it seems like whatever this thing is can manipulate time, space, electromagnetic stuff. It can do almost anything, seemingly.
There's a point here shortly after this insect pops out, I believe, and the little boy has this friend he claims he's talking with. inside the well. Like you said, he just kind of is just zero focused on the well at this point. They're all watching TV or something, and Teresa's preparing dinner, and she's cutting a carrot, and she just sort of absentmindedly cuts off 2 of her fingers, and she gets rushed to the hospital. But Benny stays behind. He goes out to put the alpacas back in their stables, but he doesn't return until much later. And I think he says that it seems like time has sort of passed instantaneously for him at that moment. Yeah. So, yeah, that's being messed up. And I swear there's another moment, I don't remember when it is, when it seems like also Lavinia, there's a time jump for Lavinia as well. Maybe it's when she's out doing a ritual.
Yeah, she's doing dishes. And then she closes her eyes for a second, and then she opens them back up, and then
it's like nighttime.
The big farmhouse sink. Yeah, and the big farmhouse sink is spilling over, and
right.
And then Ward shows up again to tell them that the water is in fact contaminated. But they're all at this point acting kind of weird. I think Lavinia just kind of tells him to go away. And Jack is still just sitting there by the well, giggling like a lunatic and saying he's playing with his friends. So Wade goes to visit the crazy old Ezra again, and Ezra is hearing voices under the floor, and he says it's the aliens. And Wade's like, okay, well, don't drink the water. And he leaves. Like, it's so weird. Like, Wade is so nonchalant about all of this. I swear to God.
Wade should be a lot more concerned as this guy who's this water expert who's supposedly, you would think as part of his job, has a responsibility to make sure that people are not drinking the water, like that something happened. You know, you got to identify the problem, but then you also are supposed to inform people, like enforce a solution, bring in outside experts, right? You don't just say, yeah, the water's bad. All right, see you guys later. Which is more or less what he does the whole time.
I know. And there's clearly something wrong with Lavinia. Like, she's sick. Like, there's some, and she's acting weird. And he literally says, okay, try not to drink the water. Like, oh boy. Yeah, gosh. And then, okay, so when the mom and dad come back from the hospital, they almost hit what looks like a demon cat, which is Ezra's cat named G-Spot, which is kind of funny. And yeah, I don't know. The light comes out of the well, the dog barks and chases it, and then yelps as though it's in pain. I mean, everything's just acting weird for a long time. And at this point, when mom and dad get back and they find Jack alone in the driveway, like, they're both really pissed.
Yeah.
And it's at this point, and the alpacas are out again. Like, the alpacas keep escaping and getting out. But it's at this point that Nick Cage starts flipping out. And it starts at a high level and kind of elevates from there, but it's pretty upper level from this point on from him.
People say that a lot about Nick Cage, about how he's always got to flip out in a movie. This movie's no different. Some people will cynically say that he gets hired for these movies because of it. Like, we need a character who's just going to go insane. And, well, Nick Cage is our guy. But he's more muted in it. I don't know. I mean, he does flip out, but I don't know. I found his performance to be utterly convincing. He's just going crazy, but he's not going insane crazy. There are moments where he seems a little more lucid. He's kind of dealing with the situation at hand.
Yeah.
But then his mind is kind of elsewhere, so that's present. I feel like his performance is great in this, honestly. It's complex. It feels very natural to me.
I do too. I mean, it's not meant to be some sort of necessarily natural progression. He's being influenced by some sort of alien force.
Yeah.
Like, it can be the flip of a switch. It doesn't have to, start subtly and progress. Anything can happen here. And you're right. There are moments where he freaks out and then he can calm down again for a little while initially. And as the movie goes on and the stakes get higher and things start going bad, those moments of lucidity are fewer and far between until at the end he's just a loon. But
right.
No, I agree. I think it's a great performance. He's crazy, but it also, you said believable. I don't know if believable is the word I would use, but like menacing. Like I put myself in the place of these teens who seem to be kind of the only ones who are fully rational still at this point. And they're concerned about their brother. They're concerned about their parents, but they're also concerned about themselves. And ultimately, they know they've got to get out of there because something's wrong.
They can't.
They can't. And seeing their dad behave that way, like I thought that his delivery was good, was really unsettling.
I don't know why, but there were flashes to, what was the name of that movie that was done by it's not Wolf, but it was one of the werewolf movies where they're also in the woods and the man transforms over time. Was it called Wolf? Wolf?
I don't know. I don't remember.
By the guy from the Saw movies.
Lee Winnell?
And his wife. Yeah,
oh,
Lee Winnell
Wolfman.
and his wife.
Yeah, Wolfman.
Wolfman, right? It had shades of that, but in this case, it's happening to the entire family.
Right.
So everybody's got their own flavor of going crazy. You've got the little kid who's like seeing things. You've got the mother who's just kind of out to lunch at this point. You've got the father who's going nuts. Lavinia seems to be the most lucid, but she's trying desperately to solve the problem by doing her little rituals in the woods. And so she goes back out with a copy of the Necromonicon. She starts mutilating herself. You know, she's cutting herself and she's carving. I don't know. I guess she got it from the book or whatever, but that's disturbing. But what's basically happening here is a lot of stuff, like a lot of this random, like almost from character to character.
Yeah.
Bad things are happening. And I guess for me, this is where the movie slowed down a little bit. And I can't really criticize the film for it because I thought it was appropriately played out and appropriately paced, really, to what real life would be. I guess I just got a little impatient because I was like, all right, I get it. I mean, everybody's being affected by this thing. I don't see a way out for any of them. I don't see anybody coming to help them. And so I'm just sitting and watching all this play out for quite a while. And if I had any criticism of the movie, I thought that could have been tightened up a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I get what's going on. I mean, they're trying to show us kind of, I guess as quickly as possible, though it does seem to go on a little bit long, the progress of what's happening on the farm, because things are progressing. Like those red flowers are popping up all over the place.
Alpacas are going nuts. And
the alpacas are going nuts. He harvests these big, huge, beautiful tomatoes and these big, beautiful peaches, but they taste awful.
Mm-hmm.
Which again we saw in The Curse in a much more graphic fashion. This is more, they didn't explode Evil Dead style all over his face. they just tasted bad.
Is that in the story? I wondered.
Yeah, what looks like a beautiful harvest is inedible. And the same thing. The difference is, well, for a couple of differences. First of all, you said the story potentially would be much slower paced because it takes place over the course of months in the story. In the movie, it takes place over a few days. The other difference is instead of the farm growing progressively more colorful, like it almost becomes like an Oz type place. In the story, eventually all the color starts to drain from everything.
Oh, interesting.
And everything kind of crumbles away to just like gray ash, which we see, I guess, at the end of the movie, but it's not instantaneous in the story. It's gradual.
Right.
Same outcome, but gradual. But yeah, I mean, I think that's what they're showing us is, that this is continuing. And you said, we see this family and we see there's no way out for them. In the back of my mind, and the teenagers keep saying this too, is they need to get out. Like, just leave. Yeah. Like, there's something bad here. And I think that as a teenager or as a kid, if I had seen this movie, that's what I would be thinking. As a grown-up, I realize that that's easier said than done. This is their home. It's their entire livelihood. Like, to just pack up and go isn't as easy as a decision as it might seem. Nonetheless, if all of this crazy shit starts going down at my house, I'm getting out.
But it's also a bit Tommyknockers like this too, and that the effect of what's happening to them is affecting their judgment and their ability to leave also. True. Right? So I feel like that's a factor here that's implied. There's the actual practical aspects of the car is not working and they're isolated and their phones are dead and all that stuff. But then there's also the fact that they're constantly distracted by whatever's happening to them, that they can't leave. And so, I thought that was effectively done, especially the woman. I mean, she's gone. The little kid's gone. The girl's trying to hold it together. Weirdly, Ward is in and out. He should be in, or he should be bringing help. Eventually he does, but God, it takes him forever. Jack, right? The father, he's just going crazy. So
Nathan's going crazy. Well, right,
Nathan, sorry, yeah, Nathan.
and then this is where things really start to go bonkers. Like they start seeing the light more, and recognizing that it's something weird. Like Benny and Jack go out to like feed the alpacas or something, but they're all messed up, like gross and like
Like the
exposed
thing.
flesh. Yeah.
Yeah, they were like one mass of. It
Well, they're
almost
not
seems.
conjoined yet when they go out there, but the light like shines out of there and like chases them, and the mom intercepts and grabs Jack, and they like huddle down together, and the light beams directly on them, and then from that point forward they are conjoined together
Oh,
in a grotesque thing-like thing. And this part was the most disturbing part of the movie because they were clearly like
in pain.
miserable. Yeah, they were in
Oh,
pain, and they were moaning and crying, and they couldn't talk, but you could just imagine them begging to be put out of their misery. And at this point, like, what are you going to do? You can't just take them
nothing.
to the hospital.
Yeah. Ah, this was horrifying. Honestly, tell me about the story. Does the story have this in it?
No. No,
God.
the mom gets so crazy that they lock her up in the attic. As they do here, they put this thing, the mom Jack thing, up in the attic. In the story, it's just the mom. She goes so crazy, and they leave her up there. And then it says that it's unfathomable what she became in there. That's it.
The
And
end.
then
Okay.
one of the other sons goes crazy like that too, and they lock him in the room across the hall. So I think that's the Jack mom connection from the story. And then in the movie, as Benny and Lavinia are trying to leave, they try to leave on the horse, but the horse has sparkle eyes and goes crazy and leaves. He thinks he hears the dog crying from the well, so he starts to crawl down in there, and then it all lights up, and the light shoots up and gets him. And later, when Ward and the sheriff come to check things out, the only person still around is the dad downstairs, and they're like, how is everything? And he's acting totally, he's like, oh, we've had some trouble around here, but I'm glad you're here. And they're like, where's your wife? And he's like, she's right there, to an empty chair. And that
Hmm.
specific moment does happen in the story too. But this is basically when they discover, the monster upstairs, and it's like a mom spider monster now.
Oh God.
And I couldn't tell if it I think the dad, as he went crazy, grabbed Lavinia and threw her in there and said, here, feed your mother.
Yes. Oh my God. This was all so disturbing. It's rare. We've done so many of these things and we get so jaded. It's rare for me to watch a movie where I'm truly disturbed. And watching this mother son conjoined thing happen was so upsetting. And then when the dad throws her in there and says, feed your mother, it's like, oh my God. Everything about this was upsetting. And so I give the movie serious props for making this call, for changing the story, turning it into this, making it this weird society type
Yeah.
melding. I mean, the way they describe it is that he is being absorbed back into his mother, which is brilliant because she's his mother, like she gave birth to him, now she's reabsorbing him,
Right.
but it looks painful and they are miserable and they will not stop wailing and crying and being upset, and the other two are either so far gone or just, like you said, what can we do? They just don't know what to do. You can't call an ambulance for this sort of thing. They know everything is wrong, and so you see the inevitable end coming. And then, of course, Nicolas Cage's character realizes that,
Mhm.
and that adds another dimension to this that is also really upsetting. God, this movie's good in this way.
It is. It is. And when the sheriff and Ward arrive, the dad starts to take them upstairs, and he's saying about how, like, we all stick together now except for Benny. Benny lives in the well now.
Ugh.
And that's directly from the story too. The dad said one of the sons lived in the well now. But that whole we all stick together now, I felt like that was obvious double entendre.
Yeah.
Because I couldn't tell, but it seemed to me not that the mom was necessarily trying to eat the daughter, but to assimilate with her. Because also, God, I don't remember when it happens. If it's maybe it's later. The sheriff and Ward and the dad come in, and I think the dad ends up shooting the mom's head off, saving the daughter. And then he also shoots the son's face is like in part of the mom's body. Crying and stuff, and he shoots that too. But I think they were all going to assimilate together. Gosh, I don't know. At some point, somebody goes out to the barn, and all of the alpacas are fused together. They look like a hydra or something. Like it's just all these like long-necked alpaca heads on this one big mass. And I read that the guy who made this movie was inspired by John Carpenter. There's obvious The Thing references.
Oh, yeah.
But also when you see those alpacas, there's a close-up of one of its eyes, and its pupil has started to separate, like it's separating into two pupils. And I didn't remember this, but apparently that is what the pupils look like of the eyes of the people in the Mouth of Madness when they've been demonized or whatever. I don't remember.
I don't remember.
So I mean, yeah, we should. It's a great movie. But direct references to those, I don't know. And then they go out and they look for Ezra, leaving Lavinia behind and the dad by themselves, I think, right? Or is the dad dead at this point? I don't even remember.
Not yet. No, Dad. So
this is when they go to Ezra and he's rambling, or at least at first Ward thinks he's rambling, but it really is just a recording of him. And I don't know if you can put it in or whatever, but if I remember, he talks about it's exposition about an alien world, or these aliens trying to change our world into what they know and make it more like its own world.
Yeah.
And he says, it can affect everything because everything that lives drinks the water. And he says it's just a color out of space. And then light comes out of his head. At some point, oh gosh, it's coming up. Light comes out of his head. So the sheriff and Ward run away, but a tree grabs the sheriff, Evil Dead style, and pulls him up and crushes him. And Ward gets back, I guess, and Lavinia's eyes are glowing, and like light and patterns burst out of her eyes as Ward is looking into him, and it's like he sees the alien planet, and it's weird.
Yeah,
but I thought it was kind of cool.
Yeah, I don't know. Honestly, I felt like this whole Ezra bit was almost too on the nose. My only other criticism of this movie was, we didn't need that explanation.
No, not really.
It almost felt a little childish for me to get this direct explanation of these aliens. I'm like, up until this point, this movie has been sufficiently mysterious and surprising. And again, like we've been talking about with the Lovecraftian style, like just everything incomprehensible. So to have a recording from a guy who had kind of sorted it all out and left the recording going for people to find felt really dumb. Like this bit, I kind of cringed at, honestly. I feel like if you would cut that out, it would have felt better for me because I got it. I got what I needed to get. We know this thing came from an alien planet. We don't know what it is or whatever, but it's having its effect that it's going to have. And that's enough. I didn't need to hear. And it didn't help me at all. It didn't add anything to the movie for me to hear this little explanation that was delivered through a tape recorder from this guy in the woods. Like, come on. This is so cliche.
Yeah, it's unnecessary.
Not necessary.
The whole flyby of the alien planet I thought looked cool, so I don't know, and I kind of like that convention.
Fine. No, I like that bit.
And I kind of like that convention in horror movies where somebody just, gets a psychic glimpse of an alien world or a hellscape or something. So
I like that.
I agree. The exposition was unnecessary.
Yeah.
But yeah, so he sees that, and then he snaps back into reality. And then there's a huge pillar of light that comes out of the well and shoots up into the sky that reminded me very much of the finale of The Gate. And then this is somewhat reminiscent of The Gate too. I didn't understand this. I think Lavinia. No, I don't even know what happens to Lavinia. I
She
feel like
kind of just like
Lavinia disappears to the alien planet or something.
she just kind of disintegrates into nothingness, right? Like gets sucked up into the whole thing. She kind
Yeah.
of like holds her arms out, looks up at the sky, and then pieces of her just kind of drift away.
And then Ward goes back into the house, and the rest of the family are like dead, but sitting in the living room. And
Yeah.
the dad attacks him, and Ward runs down to the cellar. And then while he's down in the cellar, the ground starts shaking, and then everything explodes in light, and the
Yeah.
screen goes bright white. And then it cuts back to this desolate. At first, I thought it was snow, but it's not. It's like ash and dust covering everything, and it's just like the rubble of the house, and Ward crawls out of it, and it's like the nuclear apocalypse. Like dust is just
Yeah.
all in the air, and everything's covered in dust. And now the house is at the center of a huge crater, which cut back to present time when Ward is narrating this from has been turned into a lake, which apparently was a subplot. Like apparently that was part of the reason that he was there, and like he was doing side things with the mayor,
Oh.
that their
They were gonna
farmland.
build a dam.
Yeah, they were gonna flood out the farm anyway,
Oh.
but they cut that anyway. It becomes a lake, and the narrator, again, it's directly from the text of the story, but he says something, maybe that water someday will be clean, but all I know is I'll never drink it. And then more, it was just a color out of space, a message from some other time and place, something, I don't know.
Yeah.
And then he walks away, and a bug flies across the sunset screen, and then that's the
I want to know how the story ends because I love this kind of ending where this thing that happened was just buried underneath a reservoir that maybe millions of people enjoy and go by and see and don't realize that there's something underneath there that maybe could be awakened later. Like, oh God, I love that kind of resolution. But does the story end that way? Is it basically the same?
Yeah, I think so, and I think that it does eventually become a lake. I like the crater that it creates where everything is dead. Everybody just avoids it, and like animals get really anxious when they go near it. Horses don't want to go near it. Dogs won't go near it. Stuff like that. So people mostly just avoid it. And they said that it seemed like the parameter continued to expand by a couple of inches every year.
Oh, interesting.
But then I think it was filled and became a lake, and it ends with the same thing, like I would never drink that water,
It just
lore kind of stuff.
I like the kind of ending, but with everything that happened in this movie up to this point, it's hard to believe it could just possibly end there, right? Like,
Yeah,
how does just flooding this lake with water just suddenly end all of this? You know what I mean?
right.
Yeah.
And what
So,
happened? Like, did the light, whatever it was, did it just go away? Did it
right. That's my
go back
point.
to its
Yeah.
home planet? Is it still there? Like,
Yeah.
yeah. But again, I don't need a definitive answer. That's fine.
No.
I again, like I said, just like the story, I kind of like that it's encapsulated. Like this is the story as we know it. This is the beginning. This is the middle, and this is the end. Like that, and that's all
Hmm.
we know. I think that the movie is as good an adaptation of the story as you could get, unless you wanted to make it a period piece, which would make it more authentic to the story because it should have happened in the 1820s or something like that, I think. But I don't think modernize it takes anything away from the story. I think it's as good an adaptation as you could get, but there might be another one that goes in a different direction. And the story, as we've said many times, Lovecraft stories are like this. They leave a lot of room for artistic license and for
Yeah.
creative license, and for the imagination to run wild. And I really like Lovecraft adaptations like Reanimator, and there are many, but I love movies and stories that draw from that lore. I think it's really cool, and as you mentioned, Lovecraft is public domain, so people have a lot of freedom. But so many authors and filmmakers draw directly from this lore. Stephen King has done it. In our book club a long time ago, we read a story called Grandma that was inspired directly by the Cthulhu mythos, and there have been endless references to Cthulhu or ancient gods, under the ground, and so much of it comes from Lovecraft, and I love all of that stuff. This one's different. You don't get any big kaiju type monsters. It's more abstract, but it's beautiful to look at. I just think it's a really well made movie. I agree with you from the start. You said it's a little bit too long, and I agree. I think they could have shaved off 20 minutes and it would have been perfect. But overall, it's a good movie, and certainly far better than The Curse, which I still enjoy for some reasons, including the practical effects, but this is a much better movie.
Yeah, I mean, really, The Curse feels like the 80s adaptation of a story that is much better told with,
yes,
modern
effects,
sensibilities, right, and effects and things like that. Yeah, for sure. It was critically well received. Even now it has an 86% on Rotten Tomatoes. It just didn't do very well at the box office. The budget was somewhere between 6 to 12 million, only made $1 million. The director, Richard Stanley, this was his big comeback. Almost 2 decades from this point, he had been fired from the Isle of Dr. Moreau.
Right.
There were some issues there with the production pretty early on in the process. He hadn't done a lot of filming. And so he was let go, and this was the first movie he made since then. And what a great comeback for him. I mean, I really think it's well done. It's just a shame. He said that he wanted this to be the first of a trilogy of Lovecraft adaptations. He has a script for the Dunwich Horror, which he was planning to shoot after this. Obviously this was done right just before COVID, so who knows if that's been delayed because of this or because of the reception of this, or maybe he's still working on it. We just don't have that information. But I would like to see more from this director. He's done a few things. He hasn't directed anything since then, but Dunwich is supposedly in pre-production, according to IMDb. We'll see if we get it, but that would be interesting to see, because the only major adaptation of the Dunwich Horror we've had is a Roger Corman movie, which I feel like we should do at some point, but I'm curious about. I read that story a while ago and I enjoyed it. It takes place at a university, which I always found kind of fascinating.
Yeah, I think I've read it.
And it was interesting because of the university, that the Miskatonic University, Miskatonic University it's half obscured the entire time. So it's clearly just a little Easter egg for the Lovecraft fans, but it's on Ward's. It's basically all that Ward wears through this whole thing is a shirt from Miskatonic. Yeah, I loved it. Like you said, I loved it. I thought it was a tad bit long, but honestly, I think it just really depends on how you're feeling and what your preferences are, because I can't even really knock it too much for that.
No.
I really enjoyed it. I thought it was beautiful, brilliantly done. It really inspires me to read the story. And I mean,
it's a quick read. You can read it in an hour.
I should, yeah. And that's, it tells you something about the movie, I think, if it inspires you to dig a little deeper into the story.
Yeah.
Then highly recommend you see this. Well, thank you guys so much for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with a friend. As you know, as we say all the time, just Google us, Two Guys in a Chainsaw Podcast. You can find us on Facebook. You can find us on Instagram. Let us know what you thought of this. Leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or one of these sites. If you enjoy what you're listening to, let us know. Patreon.com/Chainsaw Podcast that you can go to for just $5 a month, get complete unedited episodes and lots of other goodies that we leave there. Please check it out and support us in that way. We really appreciate it. But more than anything, we just really appreciate you listening and talking to us. If you really want to talk to us, go to chainsawhorror.com and click on Talk to Us. You can leave us a message. And if you leave us this voice message, you don't have to install anything on your browser. You just do it through your browser and it gets sent right to us. Then we will respond to it. We do requests pretty quickly. Chainsawhorror.com is where you find us most directly. Until next time, I am Todd.
And I'm Craig.
With Two Guys and a Chainsaw.